Hi, as ever, thanks very much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, let's do this shit. So I'm with my good friend Ross, who's a star in The Cave, Future Sex, Soul Transit. Anything else
Well,
that
there's
we
a few
might
things
know
in the pipeline, as they say, Ross,
in the pipeline?
and
Um,
and obviously some pretty hot theatre as well.
uh-huh.
Yeah,
Oh, we'll get to that in a minute. Ex-director
yeah.
at the SKS, was it?
Yes, one of the senior execs there at DKSH, a Swiss company. Yeah,
DKSH, sorry. Um,
right.
um, drummer, drummer
Yeah,
workshops, mentor,
yeah.
and also extreme and endurance events.
Well, I tell you what, I didn't realise you knew quite so much about me, mate.
Well, there's more. So,
Yeah, there is.
first
Yeah,
thing,
it's not bad
first
if
thing
you.
I'd like to ask Ross, sorry,
Go on. I said I thought I'm
is
going to just say Sawadee Krab from Good Morning
uh,
from Thailand.
Swadek up.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ross is in Bangkok. How's it been in Bangkok with COVID for you?
It's been great.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's kind of had a time out. The air's cleaned beautifully around Bangkok.
Uh-huh.
People seem to be coming back into things. We're at what's called phase three, which I think is a global thing about when people are mobilizing themselves back into reality, if you like, coming out of COVID-19. And so we've kicked in what is phase three, having had quite a serious curfew. And I have to take my hat off, as you say, dock my cap to the Thai authorities, and the people here have been incredible. I mean, everyone's just completely followed the protocols, and I think that's worked very well. There's been no backlash from it. When everyone said, okay, these things are locking down, they're closing down, and decisions were made quite late because, of course, Thailand. I mean, I don't know, but Thailand's not a leader. It tries to follow the best practice of what the world does, which is kind of why I think Thailand ends up, nice as it is. It keeps its own heritage and its own cultures, but it tries to learn from countries all around, and the West, and of course the East, the North, the South, and it kind of culminates into this beautiful place, which is why this is my 16 and a half years here, mate. Yeah. Been here 16 and a half years.
Yeah, it creeps up on you, doesn't it? Before you know it, it's like, whoa.
I can still remember, my time with people back in the UK saying, "Oh, going to when I was leaving the company I was at. Well, the company, right? When I was leaving
Yeah, well,
Bibia, they were saying, "You're going to put yourself out to sea out there, mate. You're going to lose track with what the fast lane's all about, and what business is about, and what supply chain and leadership and all those kind of things are all about, and completely the opposite. I arrived here on a wave that just went up and up. But anyway, getting back to your question about COVID, Thailand's recovering nicely. The last stage I think that's left I mean, the parks are open now. People are the gym's open now. I was at the gym this morning. Everything's been quite strict on numbers of people that are being let through the doors. A lot of people are still working from home in terms of work, but the businesses are open. So there's kind of people mobilizing themselves to be in the offices and then also being at home. But I don't know if you look at the figures from Thailand. Thailand's very, very low. I mean, they seem to have. I mean, when you think it's like probably the number one tourist destination in the world, and the amount of tourists that were coming through Thailand when COVID was on, they really had to get, and there was some issues with some tourists and some of the foreigners who live here, the expats, because they don't like being told what to do, right? And of course, all of a sudden, the Thai authorities. The Thai authorities start saying, okay, you've got to stay at home and you've got to wear a mask. You can't come out on the street without a mask. So basically, people were picked up if they didn't have a mask on, they'd get arrested. And there was foreigners, especially in Pattaya, who would just think they're immune to life. But of course, they were put straight. And then a lot of quarantine took place. I mean, anyone coming back into the country, whether they're a native or a tourist, they're in the months, the standard that people are following. And the military has set up camps in where is it? Out on the where the new airport's going to be, out past Chonburi. They've set up there's a military base there, and they've set up a lot of camps. Uh-huh. And they've got a military airport, so they diverted some flights and they dropped flights into that airport where they've been pulling tourists off, or anyone that's come to Thailand, or repatriation, any Thais that are coming back. But yeah, it's looking like it's going to open up again, probably to China. I mean, whether or not people want to criticize China for being the people who instigated this and spread it, I think that's it's a bit unfortunate. But they've certainly got on top of it, and China seems to have come out of it now, leaving the West to struggle with it.
Yeah, I speak with a lot of people from China. So,
say again.
I speak with a lot of people from China, and they're saying you don't notice anything now.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the first lanes to open will be China to Thailand, and the tourists will start coming back. And there's mixed reception here about that happening. But by and large, I mean, people want to get back to normal. I mean, without tourism, Thailand's GDP drops through the floor. Because it needs it. I mean, that's one of the sad things. There's so many people out of work now. So many hotels closed, all the massage parlors, everything, all the bars, all that is the last thing to come back. But I mean, what the government did, they let everybody go home. I mean, if people who've been to Bangkok know, any major capital in the world is the same. It has a huge influx of people from all over the world working there. And the government gave everybody like an amnesty to get out of Bangkok before they closed the border, and they closed the provinces. So once people moved out, they closed the borders, and they said, okay, right, that's it, everybody. But they let people go, and they said, okay, and the buses were cramped. I mean, everyone was trying to get out of the city.
I see.
Yeah, it was quite something. I thought it was a bad move, actually. I thought they should have filtered it out because it was packed. But I think the government just thought, let's just get everybody home and we'll deal with it in the provinces rather than trying to have all these people in Bangkok that have got no work. Because they were camping out on Lumpini because people, they had nothing to do. The places had closed, all the small restaurants, the massage places, the sports shops, the gyms, everything had closed. That was it. But I mean, whether the figures in Thailand are true or not, who knows? But I do have to say the medical system's been impressive. I mean, and I've seen they do all the drive-through systems and voluntary testing. If you think you've got something, when you're traveling anywhere, everyone's wearing masks. But I mean, they're only at like 58, 60 deaths, right? And with a large number of recoveries. And when we looked at the initial line, was looking like it was going to go a lot higher. But you look at what's happening in Malaysia. Malaysia's really bad. I mean, it's only a neighbouring country with very similar, but more progressive in terms of being developed, if you like. So I'm really impressed with Thailand's handling of this. Whether people want to still view it as a military regime or not. I mean, politically, and this is a global thing, isn't it? The Big Brother and people, taking more control through the phone on the movements and stuff. I mean, that's a bigger topic. But that's part of, I mean, we have to accept that in the kind of world that we're living in, if we choose to live in a place that's so advanced nowadays, in the center of cities, and we move around through people, part of it's quite nice that your whereabouts are known in a way, and you feel safe around where you are. Because it can be pretty grim out there, so CCTV has really does a lot of benefits as well, besides infringing on people's social liberties. I think we have to take a balanced view on it. I'll give you an example. I was at Starbucks last week, okay, and I was in there, and my maid was doing the shopping, and I said, look, I'm just going to go and do some work. I'll see you in about half an hour, right? Or send me a message if you finished doing the shopping. So she hadn't, so I thought, right, okay, I'm leaving. And I left. And then I started finishing off, getting my bits of the shopping that she doesn't do. And I couldn't find my phone. I thought, shit, I must have it must have been, and like, you always try and backtrack. And I thought, oh, my bag's open. Could someone have stolen it? I thought, no, I mean, it's not. I'm not in bloody Manchester. I'm in Bangkok, right? It's not that bad. Generally, if something happens, it's going to be not probably a time that's done. But anyway, the point is, I'm joking there about Manchester. It's a great place. I went back to the Starbucks and I said, look, I think I left my phone here. Has anyone handed a phone in? And they said, oh, just a minute. Where were you sat? And they disappeared in the back, downloaded something, came out and showed me on the phone. And they showed me putting the phone in my pocket, like collecting the things, and you couldn't even see the camera. But what it did, it discounted that it couldn't have been in Starbucks. So I went back to Tops, and I'd left it on a bloody shelf, mate. I'd like just put the phone down on the shelf while I'm looking at something, and left it there.
Ross, what are you doing? I remember I was with my ex-girlfriend we were at the airport in Malaysia. So we had a coffee, then we get on the flight coming back to Thailand. Just sat on the plane, and she's like, where's my phone? So she goes off, I'm sat on the plane, and she doesn't come back on. So I get off the plane, and then we have to run all the way back out the sort of out the airport, where you go through, where you show your passport, out the airport to the coffee shop we were at in the airport, and her phone was there on the side still charging, and then we had to buy another flight. Like, I was like, ugh. They have a special book for it and everything, so we weren't the first people to do it. Like,
oh no, I a number of times I've done things like that, and I don't know how. It's as if the phone or your wallet's in a magic pocket somewhere you've looked 1,000 times, and you go back to a bag and it's there. And you think, and you swear if you were living at home with people or the mysterious spirits or something, as you believe in Thailand, then it's like who put the wallet back in there? Because I checked it 100 times.
That's the thing that I think that that's a sort of bigger problem with media. I think that we think everyone's a thief. Yeah. If you know what I mean.
Listen.
And I noticed that cycling around, so many people are good and so many people are nice, but we only see bad people on the news. You only see bad people. So you think, like, everyone's like, oh, don't go there, it's dangerous. Don't go there, it's dangerous. And the people in Colombia and Mexico and Peru have been amazing to me. You know what I mean?
I'm totally with you on that, mate. I really think the press, that things should be put in perspective. Because you watch the news. If you watch the news every day, you think the world's going to, come to an end. There are things that we have to do, and climate change, how much of that's being driven by man's abuse of nature, or is being driven just by change, which as happens as in the Earth's history. So, we don't know, but it is climate. We just know it's happening, and it's a fact, and we can do things to help. I've been around and seen enough abuse of the world, and it needs a lot of education. And it's not just. Look, it doesn't matter. We as educated people, as we want to call ourselves, although sometimes I wonder whether the way we conduct ourselves in debating and arguing things. But we owe it to ourselves not to complain about other people too much and start to say, how do we actually go about educating these people and helping them to make those changes that they need to make? Because, it's the places like, you're in the South Americas, I'm in Asia. It's places like this where, things are still up in the air because they're kind of semi-developed countries. They develop very quickly because it's so easy to capture what the West had. This movement through the social levels now is so very fast. And you just see how fast the country catches up in it. We saw with how China did it, how India's doing it now, how quickly it just comes through. Because it's, technology is as it is, it's so easily accessible and it is cheap, relatively speaking, compared to what it used to be like. So, but I think the education is really important, and a lot more NGO work. I mean, there's some really good charities that are doing some great work out and about, but and a lot of them are driven. And when I say charities, I don't mean about collecting money and doing. I mean actually out on the ground. I mean, people can say what they want about missionaries and things like that. But there's so many people out there, pastors in the around Asia and stuff, spreading education, the good word, if you like. But along with that comes a natural ability for the communities that those people operate to be conscientious about the way they're doing things. And those people still put themselves at risk, especially in areas that are sensitive, because you've got, law barons and stuff like this, you've got drug cartels, and you've got a lot of things going on where people are still abusing or taking advantage of nature for their benefit.
See, I look at that from a totally opposite perspective. I want to get to the same place as you, and people criticise me for this. I think charities have become a problem because they've become a multi-billion-dollar industry. You have to hear me out. And so
that's why I said it, mate, because I knew you were going to say this.
What's that?
I said that's why I said it.
Because it's like we've got we'll say rich people or whatever it is, doing most of the destruction, and then we come along after with a charity and try and fix the problem that they've caused. And we're never going to be able to fix the problems as quick as they're doing it. So what we're really doing with the charity is supporting their destruction. So it then becomes a cyclical problem for me, whereas they destroy something, we come along, try and fix it, but we're using the money and they're making loads of money, and then we're people with not so much money are trying to fix the problem of the people with loads of money. So for me, it becomes a cyclical problem. And if charity worked, there'd be less charities. But charity now is a multi-billion-dollar industry that's getting bigger and bigger every year. So that shows to me that it's not working the way we want it to work. I understand in its essence, it's very good. And to say, people go, oh, so you think people should just die? No. I think we should stop those people doing that. For me, there's enough resources in the world for everyone to be okay. So, but, will that ever happen? It's a question.
Can I come back? This is a debate, right? So it's like a.
Oh, we're just having a chat there. You know what I mean?
What I mean by that is, you kind of make this separation between, these people, the rich people, that are causing the problems, and I don't actually know what you mean by the rich people, and you use the term of saying them, which makes them almost inferior in a way, and I don't know. It's like the other side, and I'm not quite sure where that's coming from, those sentiments. But I mean, if you're looking at privilege, both you and me sat where we are very privileged individuals in the world. Okay, so let's just tick that one off. And then when we're talking about all these rich people, they also come with a lot of baggage, and there's a lot of screwed up rich peoples as well, mate. So having your head screwed on properly is a very valuable thing. But I'm not quite sure how it's the rich people that are causing all the problems. You need to kind of help me with that one, because
all right. So big corporations, so oil companies, big mining companies, we'll say governments as well. They cause most of the problems, is what I'd say. It's not small individuals that cause most of the problems. It's not like you were talking about climate change. Climate change for me has become a political issue, a political agenda, and it's become an individual issue instead of a corporate issue. For me, it's all about what the individual has to do to save the planet, but corporate isn't doing enough for me, if you know what I mean. And they cause more damage than the individual, and the same with charity. corporate changes more, corporate will use as an easier thing, corporate or governance causes more damage than the individuals, although we put it back as an individual problem.
Well, I mean, there's a few things you're referring to there. I mean, certainly, not so much governmentism. I mean, okay. I mean, you would separate government and separate, the corporate world, and the two become entwined because politics and money go kind of together, right? Yeah. Politics without the corporation supporting them doesn't really work very well. But a lot of the corporations, I agree, they drove the capitalist world, as did the politicians. You know, we all lived through the Maggie Thatcher eras, right? So, but there's no kind of model of socialism, capitalism, communism. I mean, it's a real strange thing because there's good and bad in all of it. But in terms of what I see with the corporations now, especially the bigger companies, I think they've gone through that growth phase. It's a bit like the Industrial Revolution, and that did so much damage to the world without people realizing at those times the damage they were doing. They didn't appreciate it, and nobody was aware, even individuals. Even the likes of you and me, when plastics were coming in, no one really started to think enough about the future of what's going to happen when we've got landfill and we can't destroy this bloody stuff. And so it's slowly but surely become into a recycling world where all of a sudden it pays to recycle because it's becoming very expensive to get rid of your shit. But there are still countries that are abused. I mean, I see it. There's some awful stuff that goes on in some of, I won't mention the countries' names, but some dumping of waste and stuff. And even the modern economies where, they're trying to get rid of waste and they're trying to pay poorer countries to take their waste and stuff. So at that level, these are big issues, which is to do it's responsibilities at every single level. I mean, the best example that everybody can touch and feel, or maybe not so much anymore, is plastic bags. I mean, they were everywhere, right? Everybody had plastic bags. We had, I remember one of the companies I was in, we sold a bin bag thing where you had this frame and you put your bag in it to put your rubbish in, so that you'd got a bin with a bag in it all the time. And you used your bags that you came from the supermarket. Now, don't forget, before we had plastic bags, we had paper bags. But plastic was cheap, a lot cheaper than making these cardboard paper. And same with paper straws versus plastic straws. So we had all that before, but we moved to plastic because it seemed a much cleaner way of managing things. It's the same as clothing. Everything was nylon. All bedding was nylon and stuff. I don't remember those electric shocks you used to get for your bed and stuff. But I mean, everybody wanted all this modern fabrics. And then we've come full circle on that one. And everybody at every level is aware of it. And I'd say it's the clever people and the people in the West that are more advanced, that know exactly what their waste is doing. And I guarantee it, the people, because I see it, the people on the lower levels of the hierarchy don't give a shit. They don't give a shit in the same way as that the people higher up, because they've got a better visibility of it. And that's why I talk about education. I mean, I go around the slum. I live in Clonturry, right? I go around the slum areas there, and it's education. I mean, people are just chucking the rubbish in the Clon, in the canal there, and it's not because they're just not thinking about it. I mean, they're tipping it in their own doorstep, right? And that's an education issue. And I'm there all the time. I go and educate the children. Well, before COVID, I was there playing music. But that's where things need to take place. I mean, you go into anywhere in England now, people are recycling. In any urban, suburbia, nature, people are separating all the different waste into different things. Here in Thailand, we can't do that yet because we just have the good old-fashioned bin men who jump off the side of, and they have some quite nice. They have some quite nice machines. Huh? Go on, mate, you're frozen.
In all fairness, in Thailand, they separate it when they get to the tip.
No, they do, and
They do
because
all the
it's an
separation when they take the lorry, tip it, and then they
correct.
separate it.
No, that's just what I was going to say to you, and that's what I'm saying, because Thailand has advanced itself
No.
pretty quickly, especially in Bangkok, because it has to do. It has to recycle its waste. And that's what I'm talking about, the educated people. We kind of know, and I'm saying this way, I'm lucky enough to have been educated to the level I was and have an appreciation of the world and the environment that we live in and what we need to do. You know, and I'm conscious, you know, I think, okay, I'm not going to have my aircon on, I'll just have a fan on. You know, and things like that. And I am also conscious of the waste, where you go around and you see these huge department stores that have still got everything lit up and the full aircon on. And I'm not so sure about the home shopping as well. I mean, that's a whole other discussion that's kind of come from nowhere at the moment. And the amount of motorbikes everywhere, people not even having the ability to get the legs to work to walk to the local noodle shop or anything these days. And food. I mean, people are literally, you know, these grab bikes. We have Lion Man here. We have Panda Food. There's all sorts of ones, but they actually collect food off the street vendors and deliver it to people. And I'm thinking, God, people just go out to you know, get out and do something. But anyway, that's the world that we're kind of moving in. But on the good side, we're talking about energy. I mean, the biggest form of pollution, energy, has been, and the change has been the airlines not flying. And we're talking about carbon emissions and stuff, and the greenhouse gases. I mean, that's got to be a huge benefit. And people are doing like what you and me are doing now. There's a lot more of this going on. Granted, the signals are usually better than this one because you're not moving much, but yeah. And Asia, I have to say, the Wi-Fi signals here are exceptional, are excellent. So we get good signals everywhere, and most people now are doing Zoom meetings. I had 100 on a Zoom meeting the other day. I didn't talk much. Believe it
or not. I'm not buying that for 1 minute. So, right, tell me about Bangkok, Ross. What do you like about Bangkok?
You know, there's different things that I like, but let me. I think there's different things that I like, but let me just say, I think overall, I just love the people, and I'm not just saying Bangkok. I'm saying Thailand as well. But I find Bangkok has got everything, and you know, it's not difficult to get out into the green spaces. I miss the mountains and the hills. That's the thing I miss most. And it's a bit hot. We're in the equator, right? So that can be a bit overbearing sometimes. But I still keep thinking. I mean, it's so easy to access the beautiful beaches we've got here. So easy to access some of the nice hills. So we've got, if people who know this, who are watching, they'll know the places like Khao Yai and Rayong and Hua Hin and all places like that. Satahi, all around that coastline to Trang is so beautiful, and the mountains are up there as well. That's where the military base is. That's where they've got a lot of people staying at Satahi. But so you put the people aside. I do like I like Buddhism. I like the way people are very respectful with the way they go through their spirituality. And I think the East has got something there that's a lot more beneficial than the West. But I also think the best way is the blend of the two, which is why I'm very lucky, you know, and I really am lucky to have been able to grown up in the West and now living in the East. I've got the best of both worlds, and it's really rounded me as an individual. And then if you're getting more about Bangkok, I mean, it's changed a lot in the time I've been here. I mean, the connectivity now, we've got the Sky Train, we've got the MRT, the Underground, and all that goes right out now. It's almost as good as, it's like a modern day. It's a modern day tube, right? And the quality of it, you know, it's outstanding. It is absolutely outstanding if anyone's travelled on the public transport here. But there's still a lot of cars. I mean, people love the cars. So Bangkok, Ramapur Road, especially, which is near where I live, it gets gridlocked in the morning. One of the biggest issues for me, and I'm hoping it's going to change, is the school run. Because one of the things I remember when I was a kid, and everybody I knew walked to school, and everybody was in closer proximities of where they went. And then as you got higher up in your education, you were going to a little bit further, but you were then taking the buses, or you were maybe moving and living somewhere else, something for your university. But here, I mean, everybody is like, you see one kid in a car with a driver, being dropped off at school, and there's a whole line of big, fancy, people wagons dropping single kids off. I mean, they've started to try and collect children, but when they go out and do these collections, the schools, they have to start collecting kids at 5:30 in the morning and do the route and start collecting children. And the children's got to be there. If the child's not there waiting, the bus is just going to go. So I think all that schools thing, and once the schools get back, I mean, at the moment, all the children it's just the same as in England. Everyone's doing it online. And there's a lot of teachers, obviously, from the West who work here anyway, so they're pretty familiar with all those modern systems, especially in international schools. There's everything you need in a major city, plus a lot more, plus massage, a lot of cheap massage, right? It's very nice. And as a sports guy, I mean, being serious now, as a sports guy, it's important to get that treatment of your muscles. So
yeah, I don't know what those sports massages are like in Thailand.
Well, they're like a normal massage, just using some hot oil, some Vicks or something.
I'm normally happy at the end of it, so it's okay.
Let me tell you this right. They open massage parlors for we call them massage parlors, right? It makes it sound like a bad name, but that's not what. Well, this is a very sophisticated spa. It's a huge industry, massage, and it's at all different levels, like everything as we talk about. But they open, and they made the announcement, in like the press and everything, that it was. There was no wet massages, only dry massages, no wet massages allowed. So it meant the oils, but of course people started to think of other things because it's foot massages, so they're allowing foot massages. We just said no. So you see the signs, no wet massage. You say so. Okay. You can have a foot massage.
Oh well. Talking about sports and massages, tell us about that thing that you did in Canada. That was a big event, wasn't it?
In where?
When you went over to Canada for some event.
Oh, the Fat Dog. Yeah, that was going to be 120 miles, 200-kilometer race in the mountains at extremely high altitude in British Columbia. And I trained for over a year. I went in the June to test out the routes and stuff, and because it's very different than training in Asia. The kind of altitude and the steepness of the hills you're going up. Every weekend I'd be out training on. Went out to Satahip, not Satahip. Where I'm trying to think where anyway some hill somewhere. Every day it took me out to it. Yeah, it's actually towards Pattaya, right? It's towards Pattaya. There's some hills up there, mountains near where the zoo is. There's an open zoo. Near where that area was. I'd train every weekend, go on with mate. We'd run overnight in this by one of the temples. They had this really nice piece of land with some decent hills with sharp inclines. And so we trained there a lot. It was the best training we could do. And we went to Canada twice. We went in June to test out the routes. I went with a Canadian friend, very good friend of mine, Joseph Henry, and we were lucky enough stayed with his brother who happened to live in British Columbia. And we went there in August to do the race, and it was the most unfortunate time we had because the week of the race it got cancelled the day before. We were packing everything to leave. This is a huge event. You've got to have a backup crew. So you've got to have a crew because it starts at point A and finishes at point B. It's not a loop, so you don't come back to where you started from. And it's a single loop through the mountains. and you need a team with you that actually go and are going to be there. So they're actually going to be there, and you have pacers as well. So it's very dangerous up there in the mountains in the nighttime because there's nothing. It's wilderness, isn't it? There's bears out there and stuff. You have to have bear repellents and things and special lights and stuff. And yeah, so you can't carry everything with you because it's too far. But it is pretty self-sustaining. But when you get to certain checkpoints, then you've got your backup crew, and you can change. You can get some hot food. They'll make food for you and stuff. But anyway, the day before it was due to start, it was cancelled because of the forest fires. It was the worst, one of the worst things for forest fires, and it was tragic. And you couldn't breathe, mate. You couldn't see the mountains. It was that bad. It was that bad, the smoke. So we'd already booked our holiday and stuff. We didn't get our money back on, it was like close on $500 for the entry. Plus the flight, like $1,500, $2,000 plus. Accommodation, everything else, back at all the planning. I mean, it's a year training just like finished. And that was it. After that, I thought, you know what, I'm knocking it on the head. I think there's something telling me something there. But that's when I went back more into acting. So last year I did all my theatre because so I've moved out of sport, competitive sport like that, where I'm trying to win things. I might come back into it. I think maybe when I'm 60, I can come back and start winning things again. Being in that 60 category, right? Being fit and healthy. Maybe I'll be like when I was 50. When I was on my 50th birthday, I did this race and I came second. And somebody complained that I wasn't over 50, so I had to show my. Not often that happens when you're an adult, is it? You've done it when you're 18, mate. Well, I never did it, but people do when they're 18, but not. Yeah, I had to show my passport to show that I was over 50, because someone said he's not over 50, and he's claiming. Yeah, exactly right. Because it was a prize, right? So you sometimes get money and stuff with these events. So it was a decent prize for that.
So how did you get into acting then, Ross?
Say again?
How did you get into the acting?
It's just born again, isn't it? I mean, it's. For me, life's an act, right? And that's always I live by that Shakespeare quote.
Yeah.
We're all actors in life, right? And you get up one day, and someday you have a great performance, other days you don't. So, and there's a lot of this self belief in yourself that helps you drive yourself to have a good day. It's right. I'm gonna get out today. In my above my mirror, I have rise and shine. It says rise and shine. So you get up and you say, right, okay, let's go. I have my Garuda image that I do a little Y2 in the morning, a little prayer, and just the self, you got self mantras or whatever you've got. People, do whatever way they want. But if you get up in the morning and say, I'm going to have a shit day and I'm feeling really depressed, I don't want to go to work, and fuck it, you've got nothing to look forward to that day, have you? No. So not every day is easy, but the way I got into the acting was I was having really low at work. I was still working in the corporate stuff there, and I'd lost my creativity. I mean, I've always been creative. I've always been like, you bring new ideas, solution development, and all this kind of stuff. You look at new ways of doing things. You look to make the pie bigger rather than trying to just chop it up and stuff. All those kind of things I've learned so much in my career and brought it all here. But I was starting not looking forward to it, and and it certainly started to become more stressful. I'd started to drink more and put weight on and just not want to do things. I've got to do something. And part of it was exercise. And part of it was going to an acting class to give me some of this creativity back. Because when you exercise, you get your pheromones, you get everything going, so you like energize your body, and and you have a good night's sleep. Exercise helps you sleep really, really well. It's the best thing for a good night's sleep, and it's the best thing to help. You don't have to kill yourself. You don't have to go and do some stupid things that I was doing. When I say kill you don't have to do. You just take it easy. And you can't run before you walk, right? So people think they can, and especially if we're getting a bit older, we think, oh yeah, I used to do that when I was 17. I'm going to start exercising again. I'm going to start playing football again, or rugby. I mean, it's like I watch some like 40, 50-year-olds playing rugby. I think you must be nuts playing rugby or doing jiu-jitsu or whatever these nutty people do, right, mate? I mean, you wouldn't believe it, would you? Some people do jiu-jitsu and things, right? Anyway, so
I'm really bad in the gym for wanting to beat all the young kids. Like, my ego gets the better of me.
Hold your arm out like this, right? And they can't get near you. I know. And so I went and did a short acting course, and I said to the coach there, he was a real NLP guy, and it was all this intercommunication stuff. And I just said to him, I said, look, don't let anybody know that I'm not an actor, because I don't want you, because I was there with professional actors. I said, I don't want anybody to know, because they'll position, because it's people. Oh yeah, he's somebody from the corporate world, right? So he's not an actor. But if they don't know that, and then you start going through the things, you start doing the role plays, you start doing the scenes, and nobody knows, right? And then before you know it, you're on a level where you're starting to work and integrate with these people. And I mean, let's face it, acting is all about it's about you putting yourself in other positions. It's about you saying, okay, now I'm going to think like this person, or now I'm going to act like this person. And that's, I mean, in real life, if you're able to do that, if you're able to have a composure with someone, you think, you know what would Russ be thinking now? I mean, how is he feeling, right? You know, what's he thinking of now? How can I actually have this conversation in such a way that I can understand the other person, where they're coming from? And a lot of that through sales and marketing stuff, buyer behavior and all that, it all comes into acting. So even though I started very late, I was, just 50, right? Just under 50 when I started my first thing when I was still working. And I really enjoyed it. And I thought, and at that moment when I did this thing, which was Soul Transit, and I thought, you know what, I did the acting thing, and about a year and a half later, I did this short film. And I thought, you know what, I've ticked it now. I've done it. I feel great. I've actually been there. I've done the cameras and everything. You did it from this angle, you do it from that angle, and I learned so much. And then when I decided to I got the opportunity for early retirement. I thought, okay, reshape the whole of my life. Spend a lot more time with mum, which I did. I had to change my whole standard of living, because I was really at a different level, and tone it down a lot. I had to move, of course. And I thought, you know what? I'll still do some consulting, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get really into the acting. Let's start trying to get into that and get into it, so I can be perceived as a decent actor. And you put your mind to it, don't you, mate? It's just like you doing what you're doing. You think, right, okay, I'm stuck in this room. What we're going to do? I know. I'm going to start a chat show. Yeah. Although maybe you need someone to help you with your costume. Your wardrobe maybe needs to be a little bit.
I look like a homeless person, don't I?
Yeah, I don't know what to say, man. I don't know how to say it nicely, but I think everybody who's watching must be thinking, "What on earth is this?" I've
only got a few bits of clothes with me because I'm on my bike.
Well, look, go and borrow some or something. Go and get. I mean, you're in a place that's full of colours, right? And if
there's no shops open.
Look, we can all make excuses, mate, right? But I mean, if you want to come on do a show of this nature, I need to be looking. I'm looking at you for an hour and trying to think positive thoughts all the time, and come out with It's like, my goodness, look at him. Bloody.
I like this top though. It's really comfortable.
Yeah, well, we all like things, right? You like your teddy as well, don't you? But you've not got that on here.
Well,
So anyway,
in all fairness, Ross, I watched you in Future Sex. I watched that, and that's on Black Pearls, isn't it? And
yeah, you watched that before me.
I thought I watched it and I thought, I wonder what it's going to be like, and I was really impressed with it, actually, to tell you the truth, without blowing smoke up your ass. Yeah, I thought you were really good.
Yeah, I mean, that was a tough one, because I had to be naked for that, right? And but I mean, the way they filmed it was really discreet. I mean, because these are professional, they're all from America, these guys, right? And they're really professional producers and directors and the crews and everything. But basically, you're there with as it was the other co-star, and it was my wife in this thing. We're trying to rekindle our marriage, but she's going off the rails because of VR and AR. And that's what it's about. It's about relationships. It's not. I mean, it's called future sex. It was called future love, but people didn't really want to buy it because it just didn't sound. It didn't sound enough, right? So they changed it to future sex, and yeah, it's just a shame that it was a Black Pills production and not a Netflix production, because the quality of it, because I think you watched the other episode, they were pretty good. The quality of it was done very, very impressively. So the whole again, because at that moment you're a professional actor, right? You're there and you're being treated and you're getting paid to do a job as a professional, and that's, you know, and you got all these, and it's just like, you know, it's a film, right? So it's the same, and it's like, you know, pinch me, this is amazing. I'm gonna be doing a fucking love scene with a supermodel, right, from Sweden. And but I mean, she actually, I mean, she was a supermodel, right? This girl, and she was in a mid-40s. Who was my wife, but they tried to put me off with some right old bags, right? And because there was no one available, and I kept saying, look, I wouldn't marry this woman for 30. I mean, it's got to be a reasonable looking relationship, right? And I said, look, it's not easy to get a good looking, you know, Caucasian woman at like 50 years old. They don't tend to look after themselves, and that's that. You know, I'm just, you know, be careful, you know, because I've got a lot of very lovely friends who are. No, but I mean, listen, I know, but they've got to be actors as well, or actresses, whatever these.
Yeah, that is a problem.
So the problem is, in everywhere they were looking, they couldn't find anybody. I mean, there's lots of Asians, but they couldn't have an Asian one for this particular episode. And so they ended up going and they flew that girl in, or that lady in, and she really was a feminist, or still is a feminist. She's real. She's great. To her, and her acting. I mean, we just hit it off. It was real. It looked like we'd been together forever, and you know, and that was it. You know, we met on the Thursday and we were shooting on the Tuesday. That's how soon that happened, and we had to get to know each other. We had to spend time together. We just hung out together. You know, we lay on the bed together. We just talked. We cuddled. We just got to know each other in a way that made us realistic. Because it's got to be like that. Otherwise, people can just say, well, they're acting, right? It's not real. So yeah, that took me to somewhere very different. That kind of that. And then after that, I thought, you know what? I can do this now. It gave me a lot of confidence. It was really tough. It was really hard. And I was in good shape as well, because it was like in the time when I'd been exercising quite a bit. And then I went. That's when I did the theatre. I went and did the 3 theatres last year. So the Future Sex was the year before, and then during that process, I got the position with the Cave as well. That was really, really very pleasing.
Have you got an agent, or do you just?
No, in Thailand.
How do you get stuff?
You believe it or not, reputation builds up quite quickly when you do something, because people get to know, right? So if you're doing theatre, generally people who you're working with and the theatre owners, they publicise it, they invite people to come along, because a theatre, it goes over maybe a month or a month and a half. And so word of mouth gets round, and people will come to see something if it's going to be good. And then people pass it on, because there's always people looking for someone. And then you have to go to castings. I mean, it's one of the strangest things, because every job you do is a new job in the acting world. It's not, and even the great actors, right? I mean, the really, really superb actors that everybody knows, all the very famous people, they still have to go and do castings. You know, there's a few exceptions where the director writes something and says, you know what, I want this character, I want this actor to do this, and I'll wait for them to be available. But here there's no agents, but that's what happened. But generally, there's a script ready, there's something that's going to be done, and they call a load of people in, and you have to sit in a queue, and you wait your turn, and you go in a room, and you say who you are, you do an introduction, and then they give you some lines, or you've already pre-learned the lines if you're lucky, if they've sent it you. and they say, okay, here's the situation, this is what you're doing, go. And then they film you. And then they collect all those. So it's the filtering process. And then they send it, and the director then either chooses someone to a shortlist and gives them a piece of work to do. It's like an interview every time. So I have to completely keep my CV updated. I send it all over the place. And I don't have a profile, you see. I don't have a Facebook profile for acting, which is something I should really do. I don't do Instagram either. So my Facebook's pretty much just me. So if I'm doing anything acting, I put it on there. If I'm doing music, I put it on there. If it's sport, if it's family. So it's a kind of all in one. But I don't have a professional, Ross Cain, the actor. Most of my friends who are actors do. But a lot of my friends who are acting, they just do acting. They just do acting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm probably the closest to that now. I started this year, actually more towards the middle of last year as well. I started doing more commercial. So the social media commercials that are all going around these days, and there's still like this multimedia. It's all multimedia commercials, isn't it now? And so I have to have a flexible image. I have to be able to change colours and looks and things and styles. So if we'd have had this conversation last week, my hair was white. I'd had my hair dyed white for something. And it was longer. My hair was longer.
Yeah. I can't do any of that. I'd be a bit typecast. Ugly henchman.
Listen, you'd be amazed what they can do with a hairpiece. You want to try it, honestly. I'd love to see you in a little sidey hairstyle.
It's been a long time since I had hair. About 20 odd years. What was it like doing the Cain? Because that was
it's amazing.
That was a big film, wasn't it?
And it's still doing the rounds. I mean, it's not because it was an independent film. It's like an independent international film, but it was and the whole. I won't go through it, but the whole thing of that happening was just incredible. Because I mean, Tom Waller, who's just an amazing producer and filmmaker, he decided that this will make a great film. He got a few people together, and it was literally they started writing the script and putting it all together straight after it, in the July after it happened. Right, it was literally straight after the August. They were saying, right, okay, let's get a team together and get onto this because everyone's going to get onto it. A bit like the tsunami films, right? So they moved as fast as they could, but I mean, Netflix Hollywood had been in already and got the kids and stuff. So they kind of right on the hoof. They have to change the dynamics of it and what angles they take depending on what characters they get. And it was also, he wanted to do it as he wanted to get some of the real people in as well, if he could, Thai and international. So he started playing around with all the dynamics, which made it even more interesting. And I went through. He got to know about me. He actually saw Future Sex. So someone said my name to him, and he says, "I don't know who Ross Cain is." And they said, "Oh, da 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 da." And he looked at the Future Sex. Said, "All right, he can act now, but I don't know if he can do these characters." So it got me down as a diver, but not John Valanthan, because that's like a big role. And so I pitched for it, and I said I'd like to have a go at that. And he said, "Well, okay." Then I had to sign the non-disclosure agreement, and this was in the August, right? So this is in the August. He sent me the thing. It's July, August, end of July. I got it, not NDA. Then he sent me the lines, some of the scenes. I had to do the cave scene where they find the boys, and it built up from there, mate. And because he was searching everywhere, so I had to go through a shortlist process, and I got the look, and I started working even before I'd even got the job. I started acting as though I got the job because I started rehearsing myself being John Valanthan, because starting to walk like him. I started.
Actually, I didn't really pay that much attention to when it was happening for real.
Okay. Who's John Valanthan?
Yeah.
He was the guy who found the boys.
Okay.
the scout leader in England.
Was he the one who had the thing with Elon Musk?
No. But I think, I mean, all the Brits kind of fell out with Elon Musk, didn't they? The caving world is a bit of a close knit community. So you abuse one, you abuse them all, kind of thing. And they're a weird looking bunch of guys. They're like renegades. These cavers. I mean, they turn up and they look like ramshackle. They've got all these funny little bits of kit and bits of scissors here and little curly, and they've got funny. The way they've got the lights on the helmet, they just look odd, and they've got like tubby bellies, some of them, and some of them are tall, and they're old, right? They're in the like 50s, these guys, like the 40s, 50s kind of thing. When I say old, compared to the Navy SEALs, they were in their prime, in the 20s, like this, and they look at these guys, and they've got these funny boots and knee pads and things, and they think, what is this? So you can imagine the two groups facing off against each other, the Brits looking like that. Because there was no British military there. There was no English UK military. All the military was the Americans, and of course the Thais. And the Americans did a great job on the diplomacy. And they kind of, because the Brits were just like like Northern and Southerners, and they were just very very direct with the Thais. We either let's go in and we do it ourselves, or we don't do it, kind of thing. We do it our way. And we don't want the Navy SEALs up our arse if we're trying to get out in a difficult situation and we get trapped. And even though these guys look like they did,
for something like that, don't you?
Say again?
You want to be with people for something like that.
Sure. These kind of conditions. It's and having dive now. When I got the thing to fill in, one of the requirements that you could dive, and of course I didn't dive, but I said I could dive. And then quickly went on and learn it. So my dad would always say, if you think you can do it, say you can do it, and then go and do it before you. And he did that with his driving test. He went for a job. His first job after he came out of the Merchant Navy was working with Hoover, and he was as an engineer sales guy, right? And to get the job, he had to drive. So he said he could drive. Yeah, of course he can drive. And he went and drove quickly, and then the next week he started the job. But that's it. You've got to think within. We can stay within our comfort circles as much as we want, but when we want to push it out, we've got to take a few risks, right? So I said I could dive, and it wasn't difficult diving, but any diving, you've got the kit on, you're underwater. This was cave diving, so I was physically diving in a cave, and it's literally I have no idea how these guys can see. And what I learned about John Valantha is, and a lot of the cavers, they mark the rocks. They actually have ways of marking the rocks, and they've got photographic memories and stuff like. And they've done potholing for years, right, forever, and they recognise and they know that when they're coming back somewhere, it looks different. Yeah. And in the cave diving world, you go in against the water one way, so it's really, really slow, and then the other way, it's coming back here really fast. And so if you don't, when you get to junctions, if you don't mark them off carefully, and you've got to have a reverse photographic memory, a bit like when you try to do this to work out which side your camera is on. You've got to know, you're going to be able to do a flip mirror, right? You're going to be able to flip it. And so you know that this Y-fault, when you're coming back, you're on that strand and it's going that way, and you got to. It's not easy. It's just like go and try and find your car. If the car parks were not numbered and give you, what they do in Thailand now? They have fruits. They have bananas and oranges and pear, and they have fruit, so you can remember your flora a lot easier. Because letters is difficult, like P1 or P2 or whatever, AB3, P1. It's not as easy. But if you just say, okay, I'm on the apples and pears. Yeah. Even the kid, and basically all the kids remember it very easy. So you're out with the family and the kids remember it. So I was really impressed with that. And I'm pretty good on my fruit, so I could remember it. And they had a durian floor as well, which I was like, God, I don't want to park on this floor.
It's smelly.
Stinks, right? So on when I got that role, because I knew that the John Valanthan role, it's all about the look and the movements, because there's a lot of scenes where he's in, but there's not as much talking, because he even though he's a key character, he's positioned in places, but the story was not written about him, and that's the thing. But he's there, right, and he features prominently. And don't forget that this thing about the cave was really interesting, because it's not like you have a star and a co-star like you normally do in films, because the way it happened is it happened over the days, and different people came in at different times. They came in and then they went out, and then they came in, and then different people took over and did different things. And so the way they did the cave, they split it into they split it into two. The first half, they followed the Thai guy who was the engineer. I don't know if you've seen it, Russ, but they followed the engineer who was getting the pumps there, and he was like the industrial manufacturer of pumps, and they needed this special pump. So he went and he had to go and ask for pumps back off all these customers that had got these special pumps. Could he use their pumps to take up to Chiang Rai? And he drove all the way with these pumps, all the way from the south. He drove all the way up to Chiang Rai. And they showed this scene where he takes one off the monks as well. One of their takes it out of their fields, and they say, yeah, take it. But that's what he had to do. He had to go and get his pumps, because there wasn't enough available in the country. Commissioned, ready to go. And so it follows him, and then the second half is following the Irish diver called Jim Warner. He plays him. So there's people playing themselves, and I got a lot of my information about my character, from Jim Warner, who actually dies with John Valanthan, and also from the commissionaire who's based in Chiang Mai, because these guys, and also the guy who when John Valanthan and Rick Stanton arrived, they were at the airport. He was greeted by one of the rangers who spoke English, and he was their guide. He stayed with them all the time, and so that guide played my guide in the film. So he told me all about John Valanthan's characteristics and stuff. And because there wasn't a lot about this guy, he's a very quiet guy who lives in Brighton. So I had to get the accent right. I had to get he's an IT, so I had to get he's got like a bent over, more posture. He's very tall. He's tall like me. And he walks with a stoop though. And so I'd be going around Lumpini and Benjakitti Park with a backpack on with bricks in it to get that, because he always carries his own kit. He never lets anyone carry his tubes, his oxygen tanks.
Okay.
And that's where there's that scene. It's called the hero scene, where he comes out at the first time he's found them, where John finds them, and he's got his tanks on the back and he's walking, and the camera's following him coming out of the cave. It's great. Yeah. So so that kind of that whole experience put me in a whole new area of acting again, and it's a feature film, right? And since Mum passed away in October, so since then I've been able to have more because I refocused the time, right? All of a sudden I've got a different type of time availability, and so which enabled me to do more commercials, because the commercials are you've got to go for like 10 castings to get like 1 or 2 castings if you look at, and a lot of it's because there's no agents here. So because there's no agents, they just get a group of people, and they just push them at the what's called casting directors. And so you turn up at some place and you think, it's just not, I shouldn't even be here, right? It's bloody ballerina dancers and 6-year-old kids. What am I doing here, right? But you never know, but you meet people, and that's the thing. And then all of a sudden you're going to get a call from the casting director direct. Because they get to know you, they've seen you a few times, and even though you weren't appropriate for what they were casting then, they can remember you for when they're doing another job. You see, so it's all about keeping contacts with people here as well. So now I'm an actor, mate.
So
is there anything?
you still
Yeah.
doing the drumming?
Yeah.
Last, last time you said you were doing some work, going to do some workshops or set some workshops up.
Yeah, I mean, I went last year to Hawaii and qualified to be a drum circle facilitator. And then this year I was supposed to go back to Hawaii to get my mentor level, which is the highest level you can get with this certification.
Okay.
But obviously that got cancelled. It was supposed to be in August this year, and that's cancelled, so I can't do that. And I was launching the drum circle stuff this year in Thailand, and I prepared everything. I got sponsorship. I mean, I couldn't do it because the COVID came in and it stopped. So I've not done anywhere.
What's that drum circle?
Sorry.
What's that mean? Like drum circle?
Okay, so drum circle, community drum circle. So I mean, first of all, we've all got rhythm in us, right? You know, the heartbeat and everything. So we're all connected to rhythm and music. And what a drum circle is, you imagine I rock up at the park or go to a workshop somewhere, and I bring along with me 100 pieces of congas, drums, things to bang, shakers, and I share them out amongst the people. Okay. And I then orchestrate the people to play the instruments, and we make music. And that's what a drum facilitator does, a drum circle facilitator. So people are arranged in certain positions. They've all got different instruments. Drums have got tones. So if you just split the 3 tones, they're low, middle, and high. So there's 3 tones of the drums. And then you start to do what you call sculpting. You start to pick out people in the audience, and you start to teach them about how to listen to the signals, and you orchestrate. It's a bit like a conductor does. Well, a conductor does it with an orchestra or professionals, right? This is people of all different, you know, in the drum circle, it's all different levels. So you're orchestrating and facilitating people to play music and make rhythms together. It's fascinating. And a lot of it, being from the business world, there's a lot of interpersonal stuff. There's a lot of communication skills, a lot of thinking, a lot of listening, finding where your part is in the whole overall team piece. And so it's been very successful. In the West, it's successful, especially in America. It's a huge industry in America, drum facilitation. And they use it.
Come together on this.
Say again?
How to come together on this? Is it an event, people pay for it, or is it just you get people together? How does it work?
It's all levels. I mean, so one of my things I was going to do was set up a drum circle in Lumpini in the local park, right? So that was what you call a community. So basically, anyone who's walking past can just come and join it. And then you advertise it so people bring their own drums. So you got people who are coming, maybe really good drummers, and they bring their own drum and they play. And you get other people who are just walking by. When I was, you know Brett anyway, my brother, right? So you know Brett. Yeah. We went to Goa at Christmas, and they had a drum circle. They have a drum circle on the beach there where we went, and we got this place. And Brett said, "Oh, they're going to do a drum circle. You bring your drum, right?" And I took my drum and played drum circle quite a few nights. It was brilliant. And I arrived there. I watched it a couple of nights, and I thought, right, I'm gonna go for a go. I'm gonna go now. And I started off at the edge and then worked my way in. But at the end of it, I'm there next to the main guy, and we become really good friends. And so I was like top table in the drum circle. And what happens there on the beach? It's incredible. The vibe that happens around sunset. It's Sunset Drum Circle. And you've got all these creative people doing things. It's an amazing area of the world. Yeah, so you get holiday makers. You get all the local Indians that are there on the New Year for the holiday, the Christmas holiday, and they all come and dance and you know, bring little bits of instruments and stuff. And they buy instruments. People that go, they love the feel of the drums and the rhythms, and so they'll go and buy something and just come along and play themselves. Yeah, so there you go. I mean, it's amazing how quickly, as a facilitator, you can take groups of people through playing music together, and you're building up rhythm structures. So as a facilitator, you know certain basic rhythm patterns, and then you're able to fit people into certain areas, and you bring them down in tone, you bring them higher, you bring this one side goes higher, one side stops, and you bring people in, or you do layering. So you say, okay, all the low drums play, then the middle drums, and you sort of start to layer it on top. You can speed it up, you slow it down. So you just, that's what it's called, facilitation, like the conductor. Yeah? But you're making it up, it's all on the hoof. You may have scripted certain things in your head, but you're playing off people. It's total interaction with the audience, which is the other thing I love about it. It's just like being on stage. You know, if you're in theatre, you're interacting. When you're in this close theatre, you're sort of playing off the people. It's great. Yeah, so unfortunately, I'm not been able to get that going. And again, the other thing that's big in the West, in the UK and America, especially, and other countries, yeah, is music therapy. I mean, all this stuff now, you know, lying on the floor and going boom, and the crystal balls and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. I do some meditation with that, actually. That's the meditation I'm into at the moment.
Yeah, it's so all that kind of stuff. Like so under that music therapy is drum circle, and I mean, I did a lot with my mum. I used to get mum playing rhythm instruments all the time.
Yeah,
and it's well known for people with any brain degeneration, whether it's like a Parkinson's or like an Alzheimer's type things. It helps them because it gives them coordination, it gives them timing, they're thinking about things, and it's in the present moment. It's not something from about 50 years ago or 30 years ago that they can just go like that. Because that's what generally people lose. They lose the here and now. And they don't know where they are, but they can remember everything. So this helps them with remembering here and now and learning new skills. Even just an egg shaker. The egg shaker, you know, the old people love the egg shakers, and it gives them meaning. They're doing something, right? It's like, wow. And they can hear the noise and they can see what they're doing. It's lovely to watch.
I've been doing more research into sort of waves. Sounds wave, isn't it? You know, waves and colours and sounds and everything. And when you think about it, you know, everything in the air is a wave, isn't it? Really, and it passes through your body. But you know, and like there's certain temples inside them 112 hertz, you know, and then different ranges for different things as well. So I've been doing quite a bit of research on all that sort of stuff, like, and it's like, yeah. Whereas before I used to dismiss it, you know, now I'm more open to all that, because it's like, yeah, that's got to make a difference, hasn't it? You know what I mean? Because it's like just the simple thing, if you think about it, like the difference between your favourite song, how that makes you feel, and hearing your alarm clock in the morning. You know, and both of them make you feel, don't they? You know what I mean? And I don't like the sound of an alarm clock, you know, and it's got to be, and I think it's the same about what we give off as a frequency as well, because we have brain waves, and I think we give off a frequency, you know, and if you've got a positive outlook, like you're saying in the morning, you get up in a shitty mood, and it goes to everybody else. If you get off in a good mood, people want to be around to things like that, you know what I mean? So I'm starting to come to all that now. You know, I'm starting to awaken to all that sort of stuff.
It'll make you a much nicer person, Russ.
Thanks.
We all give off. You got it right. You finally got it. We all give off energy, right? And whether it's negative or positive energy, we have that choice. And it's like, you know, I mean, people, and I think just going back to your introduction, because that's where it is in England. Part of the reason I used to just get so fed up with it, people just moaning all the time. And you know, it comes along with the whole system. It's the whole system of the way the news is, the way people see things, the way even all the sitcoms and everything, right? It's I mean, they may laugh at some of the stuff we watch over here, the ties and stuff, but it's all upbeat and happy, and they may say, oh, the acting's not very good. But it doesn't matter, because it's all, you know, it's like, you know, and I think sometimes if people, especially, I mean, YouTube, I think YouTube is the most incredible thing in the world, you know, good and bad, right? But you can access anything that can, you know, you can tap into things from the 40s, the 30s, the 50s. You know, you can see all this good, feel-good stuff that these people were doing, though, then, that you can't really get nowadays. And some of the series, you know, like Hello Lucy or whatever it's called, you know, Lucille Ball and stuff like that, and the Morecambe and Wise and all those kind of you know, fun things. I mean, the humor's different nowadays, isn't it? It's a lot more sarcastic, a lot more subtle, because we're as a generation now, 5, 6 generations, we're a lot smarter, right? And we're just born smarter. We're given so much more in this day and age to be smarter, and a lot of it we squander on being bloody miserable. we don't utilize this incredible thing we've got here.
That's one thing that when people ask me about Thailand is and also a thing I hate about now about having to wear a mask is the smiling, because especially being in a country where I can't speak the language like I am here, smiling is a big part of my communication. Yeah, because it breaks down barriers. It makes everything easier.
Draw a face on your head and go like that with a big smile on it.
Yeah. Or I could just draw the smile in and then just give it that one. So, but yeah, you know, like in Thailand, I can walk down the street and smile at an 18-year-old girl, and she'll smile back, and I'll carry on walking. She'll carry on walking, and nothing will be thought of it. Do that in the UK. Fucking hell, like, when you're looking at your fucking paedophile, and it's, oh, hang on a minute, I was only smiling, you know, and it's just, that's what I like about it. That's what one of the big things I like about Thailand. And what I like about Colombia as well is people are like that. People are friendly.
Yeah, agree. No, I mean, the world's a friendly place, actually, and generally people are nice, you know. Some people are misdriven by their beliefs, but I mean that's a different thing again. But by and large, people are good. You know, selfishness and common interest is different than good and bad, right? So it's not they're different things again. But yeah, you know, you go out there and you treat people as you want to be treated, and you just see how it goes, right? You soon work out if someone's trying to take advantage of you, you know, and you just go along with it. You know, there's givers and takers, right, as we know in life.
Yeah, well, you know, that's what I found. Though so many people have been kind to me over the last 9 months, 10 months. You know, it changed a lot of how I think, because I was just so into, you know, I don't think there's much hope for this world, and and then you realise that most people are nice, you know.
We all need that. We all need that kind of finding ourselves in something else that happens. I mean, you know, I mean, whether that's kind of what people are supposed to do when they go for the gap year, right? They're supposed to go out somewhere and get this energy, if you like, going back to what we were just talking about before, that comes into them, that kind of makes them a better person for the rest of their life. But that doesn't always happen. But that's the intention. But I mean, when people go for those things, they've got to go with I mean, these days, a lot of people think, especially the younger, and it's difficult. I mean, it's really difficult in the world for a younger. We say it's the best place and it's the best time and the worst time, probably. Yeah. You know, in terms of what is available, but it's also difficult because there's so much available, and there's so much expectation, and there's so much with that. It's self-expectation. You just think that this is what's going to happen, right? If I go and put myself there, I'm all of a sudden going, you know, if I go and meditate, I'm gonna see the light, right? That doesn't happen like that, right? You got to work a bit harder. You know, if I go to university and get a degree,
get you somewhere, isn't
it? Yeah, it's like, yeah, okay. So, but yeah, so they expect things to just happen, right? If I go to this concert, I'm going to feel good. You know, and it's a tough one. I mean, I love concerts. I'm just thinking back to my days going to concerts and the punk. I mean, it's just incredible energy stuff going on those days compared to wow. And it was just real. I mean, you half the time didn't know what to expect.
Did you go to Spike Island by any chance? Did you go to Spike Island?
Never went there. No.
No, there was only one time, wasn't there, when the Stone Roses were there? I just wondered if you went.
I mean, I knew I was more a musician, but once I got through those earlier years of watching every single band in Manchester at the Polytechnic and the Electric Circus and all that kind of stuff. It was Band on the Wall, the Russell Club, all those places in Manchester where the bands were playing. And I'd sometimes go to see 2, 3, 4 bands a night. You know, I'd just go to all the different places, the Apollo, all the big bands. And I used to just better get in everywhere. I'd find ways to get in because I'd be going to these places every single week. And I consumed all that music being younger when I was a punk before I'd started playing, and then when I was playing in Abdominal Pain and going through different bands. But then once I started playing properly, I went to less gigs, less concerts. And that by that time I wasn't really going to much concerts then. I was doing concerts. That's the thing, right? So you're playing.
Yeah, because you've done some big concerts, haven't you?
Yeah. I mean, I recorded. I had two hits in England. One with King of the Slums, and one with Automation. King of the Slums was top 10 indie hit, and Automation got #1 in whatever electronic. I can't remember what the thing was. It used to have the charts, you know, in what those charts, the Billboard chart things, all different genres, all different genres of music.
Okay, NME.
Yeah, it's like the same as that. Yeah, so I mean the basic ones were like the indie and the mainstream, and then they had all different because there was so much music going on. There's no way, it was just so different. You couldn't try and bag it together. So they just had different charts.
Mid-80s, mid to late 80s.
Yeah, it was absolutely that time. It was an explosion of different types of music. They couldn't be put together, all these different types of music. So they had to have separate charts for them because there was just so much going on and so many bands, and so it was just everywhere was live music. There was nothing else happening. The Whistle Test is just probably one of my all-time favorite shows. We're reminiscing now, right?
And I used to concerts are one of those things that I'd always need someone to push me along to go to them, but I always love going to them. You know what I mean? Like, and I've been to see someone like U2, Oasis, Robbie Williams, who else big bands I've ever seen. But the best band I've ever probably seen was Madness, to tell you the truth. They were great. You know what I mean? They were just good fun. And it was in Delamere Forest.
Were you at the Apollo? Did you see them at the Apollo in Manchester?
No, it was in Delamere Forest, which is like a natural amphitheatre. It's a great venue. Wow. Nice warm day. You know what I mean? Madness come on. There's about 3 million of them on the stage. And they're just having fun. It's a great laugh. Exactly,
that's it. A real feel-good band, right? You couldn't help but you couldn't help but be moved by that in a positive way.
Oasis were good at Main Road, not Main Road. What's the new Man City ground?
Eastland.
Yeah, I've seen them there.
Yeah,
so they were good there. I like Oasis.
Yeah, I mean those big concerts are. Big concerts, aren't they? It gets beyond a certain size. It's you're watching the TV screen like that all the time.
Still good though, you know what I mean? You don't want to be near the front of an Oasis concert, do you? You get covered in things of piss, like.
Well, I mean, those were the days, right? Those were the days when you used to, I was
a bit older by then.
Well, that's what I mean. It's different. That's what I'm saying. By the time you're going to the concerts and then it's a different feel. And, Paul going up and down at the front when you're kind of, in your teens, getting your ears blown away. It's a totally different thing. Yeah. But I've got a perforated eardrum on one side, which I have to be careful. Well, I got hit by a policeman in a cell. That's a completely different story. And I got the drum perforated, but then it made it very sensitive, especially to music and frequencies. So I have a Even today, I was the gyms. I told you the gym was open. I started the spin class again. Just last week I started it, and I'm doing spin each morning, spin class. And of course, the guy's up there at the front, and he's got the music blaring away, and he's got his microphone, he's talking, and it can be some of them are a bit loud, and this ear was so hurting, so I had to put some tissue in. So I'm going to take my earplugs tomorrow. I have a dampener, for when I was playing the drums.
Yeah.
It's all when aging musos have to protect their ears, right? So they have to. You see, most aging musicians on stage have got fucking earplugs in like this.
Yeah.
And it's to part of it's to drown the noise out, and part of it's to just get a nice mix, because their ears get easily distorted by the PA systems and the backdrop of the sound. So you can't pick it out quite the same. You need it nice and clean.
When you're recording, though, you have earphones in, don't you?
Of course, you've got to have earphones in if you're recording, especially if you're doing an overdub. So if you're in the studio putting overdubs on, you put the headset on. You listen to the track and you put something on top. And you listen to the track again. Just the same as mixing.
I am so not musical. Like, I'm not very good at it. I'm terrible. You know what I mean? The best I ever done was like Three Blind Mice on the recorder, and I still got a C or a B for that. And still, I was crap, man. Honestly, I'm so bad. I thought about DJing in the late '80s, but I just bought some records and never went any further. I think I had to go at MCing once. My mate was MCing at the Banshee in Manchester, and I had to go at MCing. I wasn't very good.
Oh, I quite like the MCing. I used to do some MCing, but I mean, yeah, didn't do MC in a music sense, but I did it in a business sense. The MCing,
okay.
Just being humorous and stuff, and bringing people on, talking to people and things. A bit like you're doing now, but on stage, and I'm to look a bit not if I turned up like that, I wouldn't get on the stage.
Not like if I'm homeless, no.
They'd probably give me a brush and a bucket and say, "Oh, it's that way."
What's it called? Did you used to go the Hatch?
The Hatch?
Yeah, the Hatch. Hacienda.
Hacienda, of course. Yeah. What you say?
I don't know whether you went a lot or not, or whether it was.
No, I didn't go a lot. I mean, it was more of a dance. It's the dance music, wasn't it? So I went there a few acid trips and things. But the funny story. Brett likes this story as well, because we were together at the time, and but my dad brought the first karaoke machines into the UK.
Okay.
And believe it or not, the first karaoke was done at the Hacienda Club with some Japanese women that came along in the kimonos, and they were karaoke experts, and it was a karaoke company that came from Japan into the UK, and they opened in the Hacienda. They did a concert in the Hacienda, because the Hacienda used to do some weird stuff as well, and they did all this Japanese, and they got a lot of packed with Japanese, right? And so my dad was there, singing a bit, and people were getting up and singing, and it was so they kind of and they filmed it, so he brought karaoke into the UK before it got swamped. And that was at the Hacienda. Cool, eh?
I remember having a great night at the Hacienda one night. It's one of those, one of them nights it just happens. It was midweek, it was my birthday, and the next thing there's about 15 of us out. We're breakdancing and kicking people all over the place in the Hacienda, and then everyone's phoning in sick the next day at work. You know what I mean? It's just one of them good nights that just a spontaneous one.
No, I mean, you couldn't. I don't think you couldn't have a bad night, but I guess you could.
I didn't go that much.
Huh?
I probably went about 4 or 5, 6 times a day. Not many.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't regular. I mean, as I say, I did all my concert days. Actually, no. I mean, there was a time when I was going to clubs again. Especially after marriage broke down, I went back into doing a bit of going checking out some of the clubs. Right, it was like, wow, it's because I don't know, I didn't feel it had moved on that much. The music was different, but what people do was kind of the same on a dance floor. That hadn't changed too much from the kind of new romantic time, you know. You know, but I mean, there's people doing all that still. There's people going like this and doing, and it's kind of merged into much of a muchness. Although my daughter Beth still says I've got a dad's dance. Everyone's got a dad's dance or a mum's dance, right? And the kids are all embarrassed.
When I tried to do some salsa in Cali.
I don't think there's any kid who's not embarrassed by either their uncle or their bloody parents trying to do some dancing when they're friendly.
Yeah, because it's never the same, is it, as what they're doing?
I think I'm good, right? So
what else is new, Ross?
I don't know. It's about it. I'm still writing my my book. Hopefully I'm gonna finish that this year, so that'll be a big thing to talk about.
Is that a novel or about you?
It's a novel, but I feature in it.
Sorry?
When you say novel, what's a novel? What do you mean a novel means?
Fiction or not fiction?
All right, okay. It's based on a journey to Tibet, so yeah. And I'm on that journey. Whether or not I have a pseudonym and I don't use my name yet. I went there with a mate, so we've kind of been co-writing. But I've done the lion's share of it because I'm much more creative than he is. But he'd probably disagree with me. So yeah, we went on a trip together. So it's about that trip, but there's also a backstory to it. In you know that a journey is part of a bigger journey kind of thing, and all the elements that led to me. I mean, what started off as something just, you know, I want to go somewhere for maybe finding a particular certain level of enlightenment or find something out, you know, what's going to happen, you know. It takes you in all sorts of different directions, and it makes you realize that, you know, every which way what you do things leads to something else. And it's just the most amazing place. And actually writing the book, it's taken, I mean, I wasn't doing much on it until I really stopped work. So, but this trip was, next year will be 7 years since I was there. But it's kind of timeless. I mean, fucking hell, I mean, the places we were visiting, we've been there since like BC, right? So,
yeah,
what is it? Yeah, you know, so the amount, and you know, the esoteric spirituality, everything going on around, and you can just feel it. You know, you just feel this stuff going on around you. So yeah, it's a very, very special place to.
It's somewhere I'd like to visit. It's one of the ones on my list of places to visit. So,
right. Well, you're definitely going to get a copy of my book then.
Yeah, of course.
And then I'm filming in July, so that's I'm filming in July, which is going to be a short film, and that's called Artistic Move, and I play. It's only a short movie, and I play two twins, so that's going to be a really good stretch for me to play two identical twins.
You've got to play two different personalities.
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, I'm working on that at the moment, so trying to give that a bit of thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've just been researching on and off what identical twins are like, what they do, the characteristics, the difference if they've lived together all their lives or they've been separated, then come back together. It's quite fascinating, really. How similar lives can be, or especially characteristics, when twins were separated. When they were younger, and they lead different lives, but their characteristics are the same. And they may have a different hairstyle, but the way they, you know, pick the nose, or the way they do something, the way they talk, or the mannerisms are like similar. And because it's part of the genes, so anything that's part of the genes that leads to is part of their behaviors, and they grow up like that. So personalities may be different, but they have characteristics that are very similar. And of course, they look the same. So if they look the same, why wouldn't they do the same thing? It sounds like it's a bit odd, but why should it be odd, right? You know, because otherwise, yeah. So
Well, some things are nature and some are nurture, aren't they? So just, some things that they'll be
again,
inherent. Some things will be inherent,
yes,
won't they? Or
yes,
nature and nurture, isn't it? So.
yeah. So I'm kind of looking at that at the moment, and I've not watched the whole movie Legend, but I watched. I've got to really like Tom Tom Hardy.
Okay.
There's a few actors that I like, and he's really very good. So and so he does that. He plays both the parts of the Cray twins.
Mm-hmm. Oh, does he play both parts?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty obvious.
I haven't seen it.
No, well, I mean, it's a bit like when the guys from Spandau Ballet did it, but it's a bit harder. It's got a much harder edge than that one.
Okay. See, I'm not really into Tom Hardy, so
Yeah, well,
a lot
each
of
to their
people
own.
rate it. And maybe I have to go back and look at it.
Yeah, I mean, he did a blinding job in Peaky Blinders. I really enjoyed that. I loved his character in there. But I mean, it's kind of part of what he is.
See, I always think that he's always the same.
No, but that's it. And this is, but a lot of the good actors are like that. They just put themselves into the role. Others are different. I mean, you take someone who's incredible as Brad Pitt, and I don't know what you think of him, but he for me, there's such a lot of diversity, the same as DiCaprio, right? And he's nurtured himself as an actor and just become something like, and for me, he's different every time. And I know what you're saying about Tom Hardy, but those guys, and I realized just how good they were because they've just done the. I'm just started watching it. I've taken it in 3 sittings because I enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it so much. I don't want to watch it all in one go because it's just too good. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay.
You won't have seen that because that came out while you were away, mate.
Yeah, no. If it's not on Netflix, I can't watch it.
Well, it's on Netflix. Well, you see, it depends on the region, right? This is one of the other things. It depends on the region.
Okay.
So, for example, I was amazed to see that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was actually on in Thailand. But it's not on, Brett cannot see it in Kuwait.
Okay.
But Legend is not on in Thailand. I couldn't watch that as part of my research. And some of it's because of the type of movie as well.
Yeah.
And so their censorships are different. So they have to go through. And that's the same with, so everything's got distribution rights, even though it's all Netflix. Each region is very different.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
Amazon's worse. That's like terrible. You can get hardly anything when you're abroad.
yeah, I have Amazon Prime as well, and I'm gonna stop that because the wave band is difficult to get here. It's not a good service here compared to the Netflix, and it's just because there's not as many people using it.
Yeah.
So my main, I'm a real big fan of, honestly, I more and more, I'm a real big fan of YouTube.
I watch loads of YouTube. Tell you what I'm into now is that
a sort of edutainment, if you like, right? Whatever you want to use that word. I just find it immense now. I want to find something out. I want to go, and I reference it so much in my book now because I can dig. Like I was saying, I can dig into things that are memories from when I was a kid, and like I'll come out with a saying that I'm thinking people won't really understand some of this stuff. But what I do is I've got it's quite unique in some of the styles in the book. But I run a kind of it's 2 books in one basically. I got the story, and then I've got the explanation of the story. So there's certain phrases and things that are used that are then elaborated on in the reference or the book too.
Okay.
Yeah, so it has phrases. I mean, there's a lot of phrases, yeah, or idioms and things like that, or words that we say in the north that people would have no idea, dialect and things. And you think, well, I don't want to take it out because it's part of it. So you either leave readers thinking, I've just no idea what those last three chapters, last three paragraphs are about. Or you give them the chance to just be in that mysterious place where they don't really understand this fucking northern Mancunian twang and sarcasm. Or you give them an opportunity to explain to them and give themselves an education about what it's like to be a Mancunian growing up.
I do that in my book because I put footnotes in because it's because I want it to be a conversation. I want my book to be a conversation, so I'm not too bothered about grammar. I'm not too bothered about total construction of sentences because I want it to sound like it's like I'm talking to you, you know. So and so I'll have to put footnotes in and things like that at times.
That's the way to do it. You see, it's the way to do it. I mean, I because then it becomes real, right?
Have you read Trainspotting?
Huh?
Have you ever read Trainspotting?
I've never read it, no.
There's no footnotes, no nothing. You've just got to work it out. It's in like real heavy Scottish, like, you know. So.
It's probably easier to read Shakespeare.
Yes, much easier to read Shakespeare.
Oldie days of yore. Yeah, whatever. All right, then I guess is there what about you? I mean, you're just in a blank. I mean, you're just in a white screen room, right? With some deer over your shoulder.
Yeah, I've just got a wall behind me anyway at the moment, so there's nothing here. I'm just in an Airbnb, so 17th floor, stuck in. 6 days a week we can go out. So Sundays you can't go out. Curfew from 6 o'clock now. It used to be 4 o'clock in the evening till 5 o'clock in the morning.
What's the rates there? I mean, I don't know. I'm not in Colombia. I mean, it's not in the top 10. But where is it in terms of sickness and death?
Peru's quite bad. It's about 130 to 150 people dying a day.
Oh, is there really that many?
Yeah, it's gone up like 4,000 cases a day, 5,000 cases a day.
Wow.
So it's here in Brazil are the ones that are really rising. It's the winter here, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's like 25 degrees.
So are you? Why don't you? I mean, at some point you can't. I mean, you're more at risk there than you are in Thailand, to be honest. What you might just want to do at some point is.
Without being funny, I'm not really at risk, am I? I'm young enough, healthy enough. I don't really care about COVID. That's not a risk to me, you know what I mean? It's not something that I'm bothered about.
I didn't quite mean it like that. I meant in terms of, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You still are more at risk in terms of I mean, even if you may as well come and sit in an airport here and go through quarantine for a month and get it over with, because it's exactly what you're doing there. Yeah?
There's no flights out.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Well, get a fucking cycle then. Get on your bike, man.
There was an expatriate flight to UK a couple of months ago, and then there's a Dutch flight next week and a flight to Spain. The flight to Spain's full, and it'd be tight for me to get the transport to the Dutch flight because I'd have to get a salvo, and then I'd have to get transport with other people. So I'm probably not even going to go for it. So I'll probably go straight to China from here. I'll probably move from this apartment, but there's another place with a pool that I can rent through Airbnb. It's a private pool, so probably go there. And that's it, really. That's all I do. Sit in my room on a Friday. I go to this guy's house down the road and do ayahuasca there. And that's
tell us about that. I mean, I don't know if you've talked about that online at all. Your ashram, whatever it is you're doing. What is it called?
Ayahuasca.
Yeah.
It's a hallucinogen, isn't it? Like a plant medicine.
Yeah. You're going to bring some home?
Can't. It's illegal, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's DMT. It's very illegal. It is for Thailand anyway. I think Spain you can do it, but UK you can't.
But there it's not. It's no issue there, right?
No, because it's an ancient plant medicine. So coca leaves. You've been to Peru, haven't you? Coca leaves, they're legal. Ayahuasca, legal. And so this yopo, which is another similar thing, that's legal. marijuana, that's legal because they're all sacred plants.
Yeah.
So from the ancients. So you know, all the governments in this region haven't banned them. There'd be uproar if they did, because they see it as medicine. They don't see it as drugs.
Great, isn't it?
Mm.
So have you? You're writing, right? So you're writing based on hallucinogenics. You're writing when you're taking you're taking your medication, or meditation, and then you're writing. So your
No.
stories are a bit wild, right?
No, it's too much. You're not doing anything. You're just sort of lying there when that's happening. You're in your own little world.
Getting yourself somewhere. Where do you go? What do you do? Because I've never had
different reality, really. So you cross over into a different reality. One's a lot more colourful.
People?
A lot. Not really. No, I haven't had that sort of thing. And it's more sort of, you're more introspective. You're more connected with nature. You're more loving, more spiritual. You look at your behaviours. So you're questioning all these things without you being in the way of it, if you get what I mean. So without you stopping yourself, you're actually being able to delve into yourself and look at your behaviours and have a look at that, and then you work on that later. So it is quite introspective as well. And also...
Sorry, go on, yeah, go on.
You get your light shows and everything as well, but there is a lot of self-reflection.
Can you direct your thinking process?
Pardon?
Can you direct your thinking process when you're actually in the state? Can you think, okay, I'm going to start to take myself into this area, or I'm going to maybe make the colours now?
You sort of can do, but I don't think that's quite authentic, is it? It's the
it's just accentuated. Well, yeah, but your mind, sometimes if you just let your mind go, it may just take you to the same place all the time. So if you try and implement some kind of mind control, you maybe can go to somewhere different. I mean, I'd definitely be having a go at that.
There's more times there's times when you might be going to a place where you don't really like it, that you'll take yourself out of that. More so than I'd stop myself going somewhere where I'm discovering new things and thinking new things about what I can do, how I behave, how I connect with the world, and all those things. You know what I mean? So sometimes if it gets a bit dark, I'll step out of that. Sometimes I won't. Sometimes I'll sit with that, you know, and see how that goes. You know. It's the one is you sort of, as you drink it, you've got half an hour or so, maybe an hour before anything happens, and that time you'll meditate on what you'd like and where you'd like to go and what sort of thing. So that's where you'll get your sort of plan. You know, normally I'm just a lot of times looking, how can I be a better person? What can I do? What direction can I go? And those sorts of things. And it's quite a broad brush of what I want. You know, and sometimes it's to help me with specific things.
Yeah.
So,
nice. Okay, then I get to. I mean, we've rocked on for 2 hours, mate.
Is it that? Yeah.
Well, it's nearly midday.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what time we eventually got started, but it can't have been far off.
Probably about an hour and a half, I think, something like that. So I didn't realise it was that long. Last time I looked, it was coming up to an hour.
But I just realised it's just a nice way to do it, because it's quite free flowing chat, wasn't it? Well, I mean, maybe you've improved your questioning skills now, because it was probably about 70-30, wasn't it? You asked me some nice open-ended questions.
That's one of the things about doing this is about, I'm stuck here, do something creative, you know, or hopefully creative, and also it gives me an excuse to speak to people, you know, as a selfish point of view, and also it builds a skill up of me listening a bit more, because I like talking, you know. So,
right. So I'll have to do the same to you then. No, I mean, I did. I mean, I often think about this kind of thing, but I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you've got to take it through. You've got to plan it, and you've got to think, okay, I'm going to do this at least once a week or twice a week, and I'm going to, because it's probably easier to start with, but then it creates a self momentum, doesn't it? So that you kind of then maybe start approaching people you don't know, or you ask people that you know, could they recommend something? So you never know. And it doesn't necessarily have to relate to my or any one idea, because we haven't really talked about any idea. We just talked, right? So
no, that's just, you know, I was thinking of what can I do. Where that really came from was I was posting things on Facebook all the time about stuff, complaining, and then it's like all I'm doing is moaning. You know, all I'm doing is moaning. I'm not fixing anything. I'm just pissing people off. So what do I think is a way that would help? You know, what do I think is a solution? Because when I spoke to people, they didn't have solutions. So it's like, and I haven't got one either. So this is okay. This is what I think, that if we did this, then that might start something. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'll be back on for sure. I've got plenty to talk about. We'll work out something else. Maybe we'll plan something next time. But you know, you obviously did a little bit of a search on me and found out, because you found out a little bit of information. Your little crib sheet. It was nice.
Yes, it. There we go. Here we go.
Yeah, great. Well, that's great, Russ. So yeah, I actually, you know, you just mentioned about Facebook. I came off it. I stopped doing anything on Facebook, because I was the same. I just sick of seeing so much stuff on it, just complaining. And you know, it's it's a strange thing to try. It's a bit like your emails. You get so much what you want to class as spam, or there's like a semi-spam that doesn't go into your spam box, but it still fills up stuff that you're never gonna read.
Yeah.
You know, so it's very difficult to filter through. And I've got now 4 email addresses to try and filter through, so that, you know, I give different email addresses to try and not get my main email address that's got mates on and stuff, and people that are important. Work and things that I don't, because otherwise you miss them. You get 10 bits of rubbish that may or may not be important, and you get something that, like, you really wanted to see, and you don't get it. But yeah, alrighty. So
thanks very much, Ross. Sorry, crap. Thank you very much. Peace out. Take care, man. Bye bye. Thanks, Ross. See you later.
Cheers.